All right, we are going to start in a comfortable seated position this morning. And if you want to use a block or if you'd like to use a chair, go ahead and get what you need to be comfortable for that. Also, if you happen to have a strap, that's going to be helpful for our practice today. But if for any reason you don't have one, it's not mandatory. You'll still be totally fine without one. So you can sit kneeling, you can sit cross-legged, you could sit in a chair, you can tuck that block underneath the hips if you'd like to. I like to position it so that my hips can kind of open just a little bit more so that the block is just kind of at the very edge of the pelvis, and it allows the knees and the hips to open a little bit more. Finding a supportive pose here in this first little part of the class. And together we can take a few rounds of longer, deeper breathing. And if that bothers you or causes dizziness, it's always okay not to do that. So inhaling longer and deeper, maybe taking a slight pause at the end of the inhalation, and then completely exhaling either through the mouth or through the nose. And then if possible, a full deep inhalation through the nose. Slight pause when the lungs feel full, experiencing the fullness. And then exhaling through the nose or the mouth, whichever feels best for you. Letting go, letting go. Inhaling through the nose one more time, full deep breath. Perhaps taking a little pause at the top of the inhalation. And then whenever you're ready, fully exhaling, letting go, letting go, letting go. Allowing the breath to return to its own pace. And that may take a few rounds of breath. Perhaps noticing here how just those few rounds of breathing deeper maybe shifted your state just a little bit. Eyes can be open or they can be closed here. If they're open, finding a soft, unfocused gaze. Inviting length into the torso. And experiencing the body breathing in this moment. I'd like to invite us to a shared intention for our practice today. And that is both a physical and a mental invitation to invite flexibility into our lives, into our physical body, but also into our emotional and mental bodies. And I am not going to lie to you. That is not something that I am always particularly good at. That shift that we have to make, those last minute changes that we have to make to be a little bit more flexible. But with the pause that mindfulness gives us that chance to kind of slow down, which we can incorporate into our lives, our day-to-day lives. And when I remember to take that pause and say, it's all right that it's not going to be exactly how I thought it was going to be. It opens up so many new possibilities. It is both a gift to myself and a gift to those around me when I can be flexible. So perhaps just asking, are there ways that I can be a little bit more flexible? Are there ways that I can invite flexibility into my life? And whatever that response was, perhaps sealing that in as your intention for your practice or for your day today. And we'll work with the physical body and flexibility a fair amount, but also kind of returning to that notion of emotional and mental flexibility. You can stay seated on your block if you'd like to, or you can remove it. We're going to take now a few neck stretches, just kind of warming up, starting with the very upper body. So taking the left ear over towards the left shoulder, inviting length through the right side of the neck, perhaps taking the right hand and gently flexing it down and away, getting that stretch through the neck. Maybe moving that hand a little bit side to side, being curious about kind of where the stretch can be felt just a little bit different if you move that hand a bit. Eyes can be closed here or opened. And we're going to tuck the chin now down towards the chest, but encourage the shoulders to come open within your range of motion. Encourage the collarbone to remain broad. Encourage length in the spine all the way up to the neck, up to that point where you're tucking it down. The rest of the spine can be lengthened. And then taking now the right ear over towards the right shoulder, encouraging length and openness through the chest. Perhaps staying here, or perhaps taking now that left hand and flexing it down. Maybe moving it a little bit forward and back or side to side, seeing if that stretch can be felt differently. And then nice and easy, rotating the chin and the neck back towards center and taking that gaze slightly up towards the sky. Shoulders are open, chest is open. And then coming back to neutral, we're going to take the arms open now, opening up through the chest. And then as you exhale, taking opposite hand to opposite shoulder, tucking the chin slightly, actually physically pulling the shoulder blades away from each other a little bit, getting a stretch in the upper back. And then inhaling, opening back up again, and recrossing opposite hand to opposite shoulder. Again, tucking, feeling that stretch in the upper back. And then inhaling, opening back up again, feeling that opposition. Now the chest is opening. From here, you can continue that movement, or if you'd like, you can take your left elbow and tuck it underneath the right elbow for eagle arms. Hands can be parted, hands could be with backs of the hands towards one another, or you could wrap those left fingertips kind of towards the right palm of the hand. Staying here with the elbows lifted up and away from the chest and the crown of the head reaching towards the ceiling, or adding a little movement, tucking the upper arms kind of down towards the chest, rounding the upper back, and then inhaling, lifting fingertips, perhaps taking the gaze with you, and exhaling down, and inhaling up at your own pace. Inviting a stretch into that upper back, shoulders, neck. And then pausing at center, we'll inhale, open the arms, and then exhale, this time taking right elbow underneath the left. Hands can be parted, hands could be touching, elbows lift up and away from the chest, fingertips reach up towards the sky, first inviting that length into the spine. And then exhaling, rounding, and inhaling, lifting. And again, if this feels like it's pinching or it feels painful in any way, hands to opposite shoulders is a great way to experience pretty much the same stretch. It just all depends on what feels right in your body, not so much how it looks on the outside. And then gently releasing those arms, opening up. And now you may want to remove the block. We're going to take the legs out in front of us. And if you want, you can have a bend in the knees. You can have the legs straight out. We're going to start out by taking a hold of the back of the right leg and just taking a few ankle circles with that right ankle. And they don't have to be perfect circles. Maybe you're kind of wagging it back and forth a little bit as if you were waving hello to someone, or maybe you're taking full circles, exploring what feels best here for you right now. Trying to invite length into the spine. And then from here, and you may or may not want to bend in that opposite left leg, you may or may not want some support behind you. We're going to experiment again with that range of motion. So we're lengthening and then bending. Sometimes it feels good to actively point the left leg, the left toes, I should say, just to ground down. For other people, it might feel better to flex that opposite foot. So you can experiment with that too. What feels more stable and secure in your body. From here, pausing with whatever feels lengthened to you. If you want, you can kind of climb the hands maybe a little bit further up that leg. Another option for folks, if it feels a little more accessible, you can take a hold of your strap, grab that. Whatever feels best for you. If you don't have a strap, kind of walking the hands, just wherever feels like a good stretch and feels accessible to you. From here, we're going to keep, and these are all layers you can choose to add on or not. You can stay here, or you can keep that left hand on the left leg, take that right hand behind, and with a lengthened spine, we're twisting towards the right. Chest is open. That left foot is really grounding down. And then gently coming back to center. We're going to plant this right foot down. Hands can come behind. Chest is going to lift as we draw the shoulder blades towards one another. Fingertips can be facing forward or back. And then perhaps just lifting a bit. Maybe taking your head back so the gaze comes up towards the sky, drawing shoulder blades apart. Maybe you're not lifting up off of the hips. Maybe you're staying seated and opening up the chest from that seated position. And then exhaling, gently lowering down, coming back to center. And we'll do that same thing on the other side. So taking hands around the back of the left leg, and then taking those ankle circles or that wave side to side. Rotating a bit here. Just experimenting with what feels like the most intuitive, kind of best movement for you. And it might be a little different on this side. Pausing at center, double checking in with your posture, double checking on what feels most stable for your grounded leg, and then adding that lengthening and bending. And it may be that you're lengthening a lot, it may be that you're lengthening a little. And again, it matters so much more what it feels like on the inside versus how it appears on the outside. So noticing where the stretch can be felt, honoring if there is pain, honoring that, backing off a bit. We'll pause with that lengthened leg. And again, it's going to be different for different bodies. So maybe you're climbing up quite a bit. Maybe you're climbing up a little. Maybe you're taking a more of a bent position in that opposite knee, finding what feels stable to you. Again, option to use the strap if that is more accessible. By all means, those tools are there to support us. And then we'll keep that right hand planted. Take the left hand behind us and take a twist. Keeping length through the spine. And if this doesn't feel supportive or accessible, you don't have to have this leg elevated. You could take a different type of twist, totally fine. Coming back to center, we'll plant that foot and take the hands behind us and inhale, lift the chest. Hips stay rooted down or they lift up. Opening up through the chest, through the front body, building strength in the back body. And then coming back to center, opening the legs up a bit. Feet are flexed, sitting up nice and tall. And then we'll simply walk the hands forward, coming into this wide-legged forward folding position. Couple breaths here. Invite movement if that feels good, perhaps a rocking side to side, keeping the feet flexed, keeping knees facing up towards the ceiling. Of course, legs don't have to be perfectly straight if that's not right in your body. And then walking hands back up to center, sitting up nice and tall. If you'd like to do a seated cat-cow, you can be seated in your chair. You can be seated with legs out in front of you, or you could be cross-legged. We're going to come into our cat-cow, spinal flexion and spinal extension. If you're okay coming to kneeling, we'll come to kneeling if that's all right for you. Kneeling in your all fours position, tucking the tailbone, dropping the chin and the crown of the head, reaching through that space between the shoulder blades, drawing the navel in towards the spine, activating through the core. We're in cat pose. And then coming through to cow pose, dropping the belly button, being nice and gentle with your range of motion here, just kind of exploring how far is far enough, how far is not too far. Belly button drops, heart lifts, tailbone reaches skyward without straining anything. Always okay to back off if you've gone into it and it's like, ooh, that's just a little bit too much. Absolutely back off. And then continuing to explore that range of motion within your own pace and noticing how things shift around in the body. So the rib cage and the pelvis draw closer together, further apart. The shoulder blades draw closer together and further apart. Pelvis lifts and then tucks. Just kind of noticing that as if this was the first time you've ever experienced this. And then from here, we're going to find ourselves in a neutral position. If you don't want to be on all fours, you can come to your belly. We'll extend the right leg and the left arm, working on activating through the core so the frontal hip points continue to both point down. Chest is down, neck is long, gaze is down at the mat. Releasing from that side, we'll take the left leg back and the right arm forward, keeping the chest open, taking that at your own pace. And again, there's that option to come to the belly with limbs extended. You're lifting opposite arm and opposite leg from that prone position. So you never have to be on all fours if that's not something that is right in your body. Taking that maybe another time or two. And then from here, a little more abdominal work. We'll pause with the right arm and the left leg extended, neck long. Exhale, elbow draws in towards the knee, and inhale, reach. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale, reach. Exhale, squeeze. And inhale, reach. Now you can stay there. You can pause with the limbs extended, or you can take a bend in that left knee. You may want to use a strap, or you may decide that this pose just isn't for you. Totally up to you. If you can, grab a hold of that big toe edge of the left foot. Start to lift the chest a little bit here in a spinal extension. Opening up. Kicking that foot into the hand and the hand into the foot to get a little more lift. And then releasing from that. Options here to stay on the belly with opposite hand and opposite leg lengthening. Option to do it from all fours. Option to bend the knee. Maybe you want to bend the knee and bend the elbow, pause there. Or maybe you're catching that foot with your hand or with your strap. Actively pushing up and out of that right shoulder so we're not slumping down into it. Chest can lift. Getting a nice stretch for the quadricep muscles, hip flexor muscles, belly, chest, and then releasing down from that. You can come through to child's pose, wide-legged child's pose, big toes together, knees apart. You could come down to the belly for those windshield wiper legs if you'd like to, if that feels more supportive. Taking a couple breaths here. And then coming back through to all fours. We're going to scoop the right foot forward into a lunge position. As always, you don't have to be down on the left knee. Totally fine not to be. But if it's okay to be down on the left knee, come down onto the left knee. Other options are to come into a low lunge like this with the knee elevated, or if you happen to have a chair, you could have hands on the chair in front of you. Hands can climb up to that right leg, and you're just kind of drawing the skin just a little bit away from the hip, creating some more space there, getting some space through that left side. Toes can be tucked under on the left side, or they can be with the top of the foot flat on the mat. And then from here, we'll bring a little movement into it. So we're coming into a lengthened right leg, toes reach up towards the sky, chest kind of bows forward over the right leg, and then climbing back forward into your low lunge. Arms can reach up. And exhale, take the hands down, come back into that, they call it halfway splits, getting that stretch through the back of the right leg. And climbing forward, taking that a couple more times at your own pace. Again, you don't have to be down on the knee if that feels bad in your body. You can do it from that high position, totally fine. And then releasing from that, we'll take that right leg back and take the left leg, sweeping it forward. You can have your toes curled under, you can be elevated, or you can be down low. Starting out with taking the hands and folding them just above that left leg, drawing the skin a little bit forward, taking the hip points so they're nice and neutral, making sure that your right knee is back and away from the right hip, so you're getting a good stretch here through this leg. Sometimes when it's right underneath us, it's more pressure on the knee and not as good of a stretch. But like everything, it's not so much how it looks, it's how it feels in the body. You should feel, hopefully here, part of the purpose of the pose is to get that stretch through the hip flexor muscles. And then from here, making that a fluid movement. So you're coming into the halfway splits with the straight leg, walking forward to the lunge, inhaling the arms up. Exhaling the arms down, coming back into the halfway splits, perhaps taking that another time or two. And then curling under those right toes, we'll step the right foot forward to meet the left in your own time, making your way into forward fold. Knees can be as straight or as bent as they need to be in this pose, prioritizing the length in the spine and the hinge at the hip. Inhale for a halfway lift, reach the chest forward, and exhale, folding back in. Rooting through the feet to rise up. We'll come all the way up to standing, reaching here, and exhaling, releasing the arms down. We're going to come into a wide stance now. So on the length of the mat, feet can be angled out. So toes are angled out and heels are angled in, a little wider than hip width distance. If you want something to hold on to for support, feel free to do that. Otherwise, hands can be on the hips or the arms can move along. We'll reach the arms up and then exhale, float the arms down. Knees follow the toes. Trying to keep the knees pretty open. So it's almost like if there was something behind you and you just wanted to reach those outer thighs towards whatever was behind you. So I've got a wall behind me and thinking about keeping those outer thighs kind of reaching back. Couple more rounds of breath here, getting that inner thigh stretch, warming up. Continuing to allow the breath to guide the movement. And we'll pause in that down position. You can take your left hand down to something that you have to support you, or you can take the forearm down to the thigh. Reach the right arm up and over, getting a side body stretch through the right side. And coming back through center, switching sides, lengthen space into that left side body. Coming back to center and lengthening back up. From here, you can take those feet so they're a little more neutral. Hands come to the hips and we'll hinge forward into a wide-legged forward fold. Weight is evenly distributed on the feet. And we'll take the right hand towards center, reach that left arm up and open, and then just kind of swim that arm back and bring it forward. You can follow it with your gaze if you'd like to. Swimming it back and forward. And then switching directions of that circle, lubricating the joint, exploring the range of motion. Of course, if you have an injury, absolutely honoring that. And we'll release that side and take the opposite side. Swimming that arm, maybe following it with the gaze, maybe not. If that doesn't feel good on the neck, you certainly don't have to. Switching directions. Inviting space into the chest and the shoulder. And then from here, coming into a side lunge. So we're going to walk the hands over towards the left. Now you may want hands on the hips. You may want them down at the mat. You may want them at heart center. And we're going to go from side to side at your own pace. So knee again is going to kind of follow the toes. You don't want it to be way out of alignment, just making sure it feels okay in your body. Using your powerful legs to lift up and then to reach over to the other side. Maybe taking that another time or two in your own range of motion with whatever props or support you need. It might be that you have a chair in front of you or a table. It might be that your hands are at your heart. And then pausing here back at center. You can heel toe or step the feet back towards one another, coming up to the top of the mat. Standing nice and equal, a little softness in the knees. We'll inhale, reach the arms up. And exhale, float the arms down. Inhale, find a halfway lift to lengthen the spine. And then exhale, fold back in. And let's step the right leg back into a lunge position. Right hand can plant down on the block or the mat or the chair, and the left arm can reach up as you come into a twist. Opening up through the chest, reaching up and out of that right arm, right shoulder. And exhale, come back to center. From here, you can heel toe that left foot out towards the left. And take both hands to the big toe edge of the left foot, coming into more of a lizard lunge. You can be down on the right knee or not. You could have hands on your block or not. Option here to move with the breath again. So on the knee or not, we'll begin to straighten through that left leg. Some people like to actually lift the toes up towards the sky. For others, that does not feel good. So you can play around with that if you like, rebending the knee, lifting, straightening within your range of motion, lifting the toes or not, and taking that perhaps just another time or two, continuing to stretch, continuing to invite flexibility into our lives and our bodies. And then gently coming back through to center. You can heel toe that foot back towards center, perhaps coming down onto the right knee for the transition, or simply stepping both feet back into downward facing dog, pedaling the feet. Recently, I found that I really like lifting way up onto the tippy toes and then pressing down with the exhalation. Just kind of exploring how much more space I can invite into that motion, but making it your own. Maybe you like to move in a slightly different way in your downward facing dog. Finding that natural hinge at the hip, just like we do in our forward folds, continuing to invite length in the spine. And then from here, on the knees or not, coming through to plank position. Crown of the head reaches forward. Tailbone and heels reach back. And then exhale, lower all the way down to the mat. Neck is long on all sides, and we're going to tense the fingers kind of out to the side. Goal post arms, elbows up towards the sky. And then finding a lift, rooting down actively through the pelvis, engaging the glutes, and exhale, lower. You can make this movement as fluid as you'd like to, leading with the chest on the way down, tucking the chin on the way up. Moving with the breath. If you don't like the fingers tented, if that feels bad, feel free not to do it. And then we'll take our gaze out towards the left, back to center, and towards the right. Making that one fluid movement. And then taking hands and stacking them. Taking a little rest here. Reconnecting with your intention, reconnecting with the breath. Option here to take a bend in your left knee. If you want to use a strap, you can, or you can take your hand around towards that left ankle or top of the foot, continuing to root down through the left frontal hip points. Hand could be down and you could be resting on the hand, or you can find a little more lift in the upper body, pressing that heel down a little bit more towards the glutes, getting a stretch through the hip flexor muscles. All layers, just choosing the one that feels best for you right now. And gently releasing that side, taking the other side. And you can stay here with that leg bent. You don't have to grab it. You could grab with the strap, or you could grab with your hand. You can be down low in the upper body, or you can be lifted. Just making sure that you're plugging the hip points down onto the mat. Your knee is staying relatively in line with the hip rather than splaying way out towards the right. And then gently releasing from that. Feel free to stay, pause, and windshield wiper legs. Press back to child's pose, or maybe come right into your downward facing dog. Elongating the spine, pedaling the feet again, or finding stillness. Taking a couple breaths here. And then scooping the right foot forward, getting it there however is best for you. Left hand can plant down. We'll reach that right arm up towards the sky. Rooting actively through the left hand, lifting up and out of the shoulder. Exhaling, releasing down. You can heel toe that right foot out towards the right. You can stay elevated if you'd like to on the ball of that left foot, or you could come down onto the knee, whatever suits you. You can stay in stillness in lizard pose, or you can add that movement, pressing back with a relatively straight leg, hinging at the hips, spine is long, and then lunging back into it. Taking that at your own pace, exploring the range of motion and flexibility that's there. Inviting more flexibility, but not forcing it. Of course, always being kind to ourselves whenever possible. Reminding ourselves to be kind. And then releasing from that, you can heel toe that foot towards center. Scoop the left foot forward to meet the right. On the next exhalation, folding forward, natural hinge at the hips. Neck is long, you can shake the head no and yes. Release the jaw, invite the length into the neck. Inhale, find a halfway lift. And exhale, fold back in. Rooting through the feet to rise, coming all the way back up to standing. Exhaling, arms float down to our sides. Hands can come to the hips. We're going to take the left foot back for warrior one. Heel to heel or a little wider in your stance. Lunge comes into that right knee. Chest is forward. Plug that back foot in. We worked with this a little bit last week. We'll inhale the arms up and out to the sides. And then as you exhale, float the arms down. Give a little hug to that right leg. And inhale, open back up. Exhale down. Inhale up. And one more time, exhale down. And inhale up. Arms are out wide. We're going to take that left elbow under the right for eagle arms, or you can take opposite hands to opposite shoulders like we did in the beginning. Continuing to plug the back foot in, feeling that stretch here through the upper back, inviting length into the neck as you continue to plug the feet down. And inhale, open those arms back up. If it feels okay and safe in your body, taking hands to lace at the low back. This is another one you can use the strap for, just to give you a little more space and range of motion by gripping the strap instead of the fingers. Staying upright or bowing forward into humble warrior. If humble warrior doesn't feel safe, bring the hands down to your block or your chair. Outer right hip and right knee hug in, so you don't kind of sway out to the side too much. Encouraging the chest and the head to be towards the middle of the mat. And inhale, rising back up. You can scooch the feet a little closer together. You could keep your hands in this configuration if you'd like to. Bring your hands to your chair, your heart, reach them to the sides. Whatever you want to do with your hands is totally fine. And we're going to begin to elevate that left leg into warrior three. Chest and frontal hip points angle downward. Left toes are super active. Left glutes and hamstring muscles. Spine is long, neck is long. And then tipping back upright. Feet are about hip width distance. And now we'll step the right foot back, coming into warrior one on this side, heel to heel or slightly wider in your stance. Arms can reach up. And we'll begin to move Again, with the arms, wings of a bird, exhaling down, hugging around that leg, and inhaling, rising up. Taking that a few more times at your own pace, allowing the spine to round, the chin to tuck, trying to stay as steady and stable as possible through the low body as you move the upper body, working on joint stability, working on muscle strength, continuing to invite flexibility. And the next time you're up, you can stay up, taking those arms wide. This time we'll take that right elbow under the left for eagle arms, or opposite hands to opposite shoulders. Either one is fine. Breathing here. Continuing to maintain the stability in the low body with that left knee stacked on top of the left ankle. Weight is even in the foot, maybe a little more in the heel. Opening those arms back up, hands can come towards the low back, fingers can lace, chest can lift. You can stay right here or begin to bow forward into humble warrior. Crown of the head is nice and heavy. If the laced fingers is not a good option for you, go ahead and try your belt or your strap just to give you a little more space. And inhaling, rising all the way back up, taking the stance maybe a little bit shorter for your transition. We'll come into warrior three, any arm variation that suits you. That right foot is flexing, crown of the head lengthens, trying to angle both the shoulder points and the hip points down, engaging the core. And coming back through to center. I'm going to do one balance pose before we switch to something else. So this is another one you may or may not want your strap for. We're going to do dancer pose. You may or may not want a wall or a chair handy. If you're going to use the strap, I like to take it so that I loop it around the left ankle. And then you can take that strap and hold on to the wall or the chair for stability and swing it over your shoulder. Maybe work with taking the hand away from the wall. Otherwise, if you're holding on to the foot, or even if you're not holding on to the foot, you can start to take this into more of a back bend, beginning to kind of like that pose that we did from all fours, kicking the foot into the hand, lengthening up through the chest. You can take your right arm forward in front of you or hang on to something. This one they call upright bow. So instead of thinking of it as a forward fold, we're really lifting up through the crown of the head, lifting up through that left ball of the foot. Using whatever adaptation you'd like, strap, chair, wall. And releasing from that side, we'll do the same thing on the opposite side, resetting yourself, double checking that that all felt okay in the body. And knowing this side might be different, we'll grab a hold with the strap or with the hand now to that right foot. Staying really tall and upright if you don't like the back bend. If the back bend feels okay for you, you're reaching that ball of the foot up towards the sky, reaching the chest forward, maybe reaching the arm up, getting a stretch even through that, you can maybe even feel it through that right shoulder, through the chest, quadricep muscles, hip flexor muscles. And gently releasing down from that. And we'll just do one more quick thing here. So finding your heel to arch alignment. I'm going to take that left heel to line up with the right arch. Start to lunge through that left knee. Coming into warrior two, just make sure your stance is long enough. A lot of times what I do see is this type of thing where the stance isn't long enough and the knee goes way beyond the ankle. And they say that can put some unnecessary strain on the knee. Arms can reach here. We'll move the upper body a little bit, keeping the low body still. Reverse the warrior, and then exhale, extend, and inhale, reverse, and exhale, extend. One more time, inhale to reverse, and exhale to extend. This time, if you'd like, we're not going to use the arm to support us. We're going to use the oblique muscles, use the core a little bit more. So that right arm comes in front of you, left arm reaches up and open. Oblique muscles work as you shift, reaching forward, keeping the chest open. Shoulder blades as if they were trying to just kind of brush against a wall behind you. And releasing from that, beginning to straighten without locking through your left knee. And taking the whole torso and beginning to lean it over that left leg. Coming into triangle pose. If you have a block and you'd like to use it, if you have a chair and you'd like to use it, go ahead and take that left hand down. If you'd like to take this into more of an abdominal exercise, you can begin to lift that left arm forward, keeping the chest open. Maybe you want to take that left arm and reach it towards the kind of framing the head, really using the core, making sure the strain isn't going into the legs. Legs are working, but it shouldn't feel like you're hurting your knees or your joints. And then from here, inhale to reverse. Coming back to center, pivoting the feet. Feet are wider than hip width, toes might be turned in slightly. Hands can come to the low back. We'll lift the chest here. And releasing from that, turning those right toes towards the other side of the mat, lunging through the right knee. Lengthening up and out of the hips, up and out of the torso. Arms can reach. And moving with the breath, inhaling to reverse and exhaling to extend. Already, even though we're using the bottom arm, already starting to engage through the oblique muscles. Starting to think about those being the muscles that are moving us from side to side, keeping our chest open, keeping our back open. And then whenever you're ready, taking that bottom arm in front, rather than using it for support as you move. And coming back to center, straightening without locking through that right knee, hinging down into triangle, continuing to keep left shoulder up and open on top of the right. Arms can reach. You can have that right hand on a chair or a block. If you wanted to take it into the core variation, you're taking that right arm forward to start, working through lengthening both sides of the waist, and then perhaps taking both arms forward to frame that head and ears. Inhaling, using the core to rise up. Left hand slides down the left leg. Take a stretch for the right side body. And releasing from that. Pivoting the feet once again. Nice, easy forward fold, rooting down through the big toes, finding the natural hinge at the hip, lengthen the spine, inviting flexibility into the body, meeting yourself where you are. Any arm variation that you choose is fine. Hands can be on the mat, chair, block. You can grab a hold of the ankles. You could take laced fingers to the low back and reach the arms up overhead or use a strap. Taking a couple of breaths here. And then if you'd like to heel toe the feet back together a little bit or transition into seated however you'd like to, taking that bend in the knees and safely coming down into a seated position. And from here, legs will be in front of us to start, and then we're just going to cross the left ankle just on top of the right knee. If this doesn't feel accessible to you, you can do this from a reclined position, totally fine. Scooching a little bit closer, just finding that range of motion where you begin to feel a stretch. So taking the chest a little closer, maybe walking the foot a little closer, compressing yourself a little bit more to find the ideal stretch. And then moving side to side, keeping it pretty fluid here. You can kind of pivot a little bit back and forth, side to side on that standing heel. Notice if there are spaces that feel really good for the stretch. And then coming back to center. Now this may or may not feel okay in your body. If it doesn't, continue to do what we were doing. If you have a block and you want to experiment with coming into what they call double pigeon, you can take that block, or if you have something bigger, I probably need like 5 blocks, you can take something bigger and stuff it under there. And what you want is basically for the shins to be pretty much stacked on top of one another. This is a very intense stretch, not necessarily right for everybody. When I say that I struggle with flexibility, I struggle with it physically and mentally. So this is a good class for me too. This, I am not very open in my hips here. So I know some people can have them totally flattened down, but this is a reminder for me as well as for everyone else that it's not about what it looks like, it's about what it feels like. Although what I'm doing here probably doesn't look super impressive, it feels quite intense. So that is, I think, something that we need to remember with these different poses, that people are going to look in all different kinds of ways, and their experiences are all going to be different as well. So that's all the more reason to focus on our own flexibility here. All right, and then gently easing out of that, maybe taking the legs a little bit side to side, releasing. And now we will cross that right ankle on top of the left. So switching sides and taking that little side to side motion here. If the side to side doesn't feel good, if it feels better to be still, go ahead and be still. If this upright position doesn't feel good, come into the reclined position. Spending just a little more time here, readjusting, moving, stretching. And then again, if you'd like to, you're taking that bottom shin, so that left shin, so it's pretty much parallel in front of you. And then you can use your block or your pillow or whatever is supportive for you if you're going to go ahead and take this, and take both of the shins so they're pretty much stacked on top of one another, even if there's a very significant space here, just that they're pretty much stacked, and that if you have any particular issues or range of motion stuff going on with your hips or hip replacement, this may or may not be the best position for you. So you may decide to do more of the reclined pigeon here, reclined figure 4, rather than doing this intense stretch. And you're just breathing. It's okay if it's a bit intense, a bit uncomfortable. It shouldn't be excruciatingly painful. And that is the same with being flexible in our lives. It is sometimes uncomfortable and difficult, But when we can get through it, it can be quite rewarding and we can see the beauty on the other end of it. Taking another breath or two here. And then releasing from that, nice and easy, shaking out a little bit, doing what you need to do to just kind of let go of that stretch. And we'll make our way to a reclined position, hugging the knees in. Maybe you want to take a happy baby pose here rather than hugging the knees in. Definitely feel liberated to do that. And then taking both legs over towards the right, left arm can reach towards the left. You can take the gaze out towards the left. Right hand can provide a little bit of pressure here. And then coming through to center and taking the legs out towards the left. Right arm can reach towards the right, gaze can come towards the right. And coming back to center and starting to set yourself up for the relaxation pose. So maybe you're grabbing an additional piece of clothing or blanket. Maybe you're seated or reclined. Legs can be bent or outstretched. It's also a great opportunity to check in to see if there's another stretch or little full body yawn or anything like that that you need to take before you come into stillness. Allowing the breath to slow down here. Allowing the bones to be heavy. Feeling the support of the ground underneath you. And committing to being here in this space with this breath and this moment. I'd like to share a quote with you from Charles Darwin today about flexibility. He wrote, "It is not the strongest of the species, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change." So maybe taking another breath or two to seal in any intention that speaks to you as it relates to flexibility or something else if the flexibility intention is not speaking to you today. Perhaps asking yourself again, are there ways that I can work flexibility into my life a little bit more, into my day today? And then sealing in that intention and beginning to invite a bit of movement into the body. As you're ready, taking the transition up to a seated position if you'd like. And I thank you all so very much for being here, for giving me this opportunity to teach and share with you. Thank you all very much. Namaste.